Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody. Wow, I have lots of people this time. That is so cool. So, hello and welcome to episode 8 of The Magical Throne. I'm Joy Keeling, the Queen Huntress, and just waiting for Sister Maximilian to call in. Hope she, there she is, I think. How do I work this? I think. Hello, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Oh,
How are
goody.
you?
I'm great. Oh, my goodness. It's Sister Maximilian. Say hello to everybody.
Hi. Hello.
Can you hear her okay? Because I don't know if how the sound is going. Of course, I think we have to wait for everybody.
Problem.
Okay, goody. They hear you. Yay. It worked.
It's working.
Yay. Awesome. Yeah, I'm going off of my iPhone. Okay. And of course, there are people watching on YouTube. I've got the same outfit I wore the last time I saw you.
Oh, wonderful.
That was I remember when I showed up. I was wearing a knit wrap, and I just looked so blah sitting there. And all of a sudden, I turned to, as we're getting up to leave, I turned to everybody and say, "Hey, can I get a picture?" And then I take it off, and I'm wearing this red and black sequined corset. And I don't remember who it was that said, "Joy, what are you wearing?"
Probably just a married girl.
Probably. Well, you took a good picture. I wish you could have been in it.
Oh,
That was.
My arms aren't long enough.
So yes, I was so excited to be able to ask you to be on my show. And wow, that is a very hot lid. I'm putting things into the teapot now. I have this lovely Japanese style cast iron teapot, and I love putting different things in it. Now I have some frozen peaches, and I've got.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I've got some white tea and some green tea and some lavender. I'm just gonna put a little mix of that in there and let that all kind of meld together.
Yeah, that'll be good. I have a green tea. We had a impromptu dinner with my parents, so I grabbed a green tea from the restaurant.
Restaurant green tea is so yummy, but I didn't know why until I studied Chinese. Do you know what it is that they do? The first pot is always bitter. They drain the water out. They put the water in there and they drain the first pot out, and then they brew the tea leaves a second time.
Yeah.
And that's why it tastes so much sweeter.
Rid of the bitterness.
Yeah. I didn't know that until I studied Chinese from a Chinese woman who was, bringing tea in, and we got to sip tea during class, and I really didn't know what I was doing in there, but I tried. So, gosh, I mean,
we have a bookstore that we go to. We haven't since everything went down in 2020, but there's a bookstore in Chinatown here in Atlanta that has a wonderful chrysanthemum tea that I really like.
Ooh, yeah. I love chrysanthemum tea. I have an entire jar of chrysanthemum tea sitting over there in my little apothecary cabinet with all my other herbs and stuff. I got that from the Korean market down the street. It's the closest supermarket to me, and I go there all the time.
It's a good tea for sure.
Yeah, so it's actual real tea, not just something I put in a jar. Now, I
One of my favorites. I love, as far as like herbal teas go, I love raspberry leaf tea.
Yeah.
And I was telling Bishop about the effects of it because I actually started drinking it because I read. This is kind of a silly tangent, but I read the Outlander series. And I don't know if you know anything about it. Do you know anything about that series?
I haven't seen it. I've heard about it, and I think Bishop mentioned it once because I said something about how I was using herbs to treat my cat, and he said it reminded him of someone from something. Was that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's it. So it's basically, it's kind of like a time travel, vaguely supernatural type series. It's like can you miss it though, supernatural. Like it's not really that supernatural, but it's about a nurse in 1940s England who travels through time back to 1740 Scotland, and she uses a lot of her medical know-how, but she's also kind of an amateur herbalist. And so she's able to use like a lot of like herbal techniques and stuff. And throughout the book, she's always prescribing raspberry leaf tea to women. Like childbirth, lactating, pregnant. Like she's always giving people these women raspberry leaf tea. So finally, I was like, I'm going to look up the tea and see what it is. And it's a wonderful tea. It helps regulate menstrual cycles. It helps balance hormone levels. It helps with lactation, all sorts of things. So I was telling Bishop about it, and he said, is it only for women, or can men drink it too? And so I looked that up, and it actually is good for men to drink as well, because it helps balance out their hormones a little bit.
Yeah.
And that, it kind of balance out the roughness of testosterone a little bit. So we both rather enjoy our raspberry leaf tea.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I have a hormone disorder. I've got PCOS. And so, I'm always looking for natural ways to regulate my hormones and make them settle down, because sometimes they get too excited. And when I was doing my research on that, I found that men were having similar issues, but because they have different levels of hormones and different types of organs in there, and it affects them different ways. But that's one of the things that'll cause like enlarged prostate. It's the same thing that causes my PCOS.
Really?
We should get down to the root source of it. Yeah. It's the same hyperactive, all the hormone stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's awesome, because that's one of the things that I'm thinking of doing on the network is like every now and then putting up some facts about different herbs, like medicinal qualities, but also like metaphysical qualities and stuff too. So I thought that would be fun to share.
That would be really cool. That would be awesome. I would love to read that. That would be absolutely fascinating.
Oh yeah, especially with the stuff I've got growing.
I never, he's always teasing me that I don't give myself enough like credit to things. So I always take the word of other people who clearly know what they're talking about over my own research. Like because I always kind of doubt. Well, maybe I missed this one article that actually is like the cornerstone of the whole treatment or whatever. So it's always interesting to me to constantly glean from other people who I perceive as knowing more about a particular topic. So I would definitely love to read that.
Yeah, and the funny part is I feel the exact same way, even though I've been reading about all this stuff for like decades. It's like I feel like a total noob. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm like that too. Maybe there's that one thing that I missed, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna be that person who recommends something, and then I miss like the smoking gun that says no, don't do that.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, I'm always afraid of that. Even in my profession, I've been in my profession for 20 years, and I still like if I'm in the middle, if I stop and think about if I think too much about what I'm recommending to someone, if I think about it too much, I'll start to doubt myself. Like, that's just how I am. Even though I know that I know it, and then I know that what I'm saying is true and accurate, I'll be like, wait, is it?
Yeah.
So I definitely love reading from other people for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I remember reading a while back that you had some kind of title, like you have a position in the church that, you're doing stuff. Like it was a mother matriarch sort of thing.
Yeah, they call me the Matista. It's like the matriarch. Yeah.
Well, I just think that's so
It's kind
cool.
of like it's like the role, like when there's in the eastern branches in particular, when I guess there are a few Western Rite priests who the word is escaping me, who came into union with Rome, but they were married beforehand.
Right.
They're obviously allowed to remain married and everything. So there are a few Western Rite priests, even here in America, who are married, and so I'm sure it operates the same way.
Oh yeah.
With their parishes, but basically, what it is when a priest is married and has a family, that the wife will become kind of like the motherly role to the parish. So in all aspects, the priest takes care of the flock, with the sacramentals and the sacraments, confession and baptisms and things like that. She's there behind the scenes, like, I guess kind of doing all the stuff that's related around it, and kind of like the oil that makes the machine run. So, they often organize like the food trains and things like that. After, like, say someone in the parish has a new addition to the family, they'll often organize like the people who come with meals or who take turns like helping out with like chores and stuff like that. And then there's also like there's that aspect of it with the parish as far as like daily life, but then there's also like the running of the church itself. They'll often take on the role of helping like organize the daily maintenance and things like that. So it's kind of what you imagine mom, the archetypal mother to be, as far as like running the household. It's the equivalent within the church.
Yeah, and I come from the Episcopal Church, and we ordain women in that church as well as married men. So we often had women who would be like deacons. They wouldn't be full priests. Some of them were, but like some of them that were not were taking on a role similar to that. Like it just kind of drifted into that kind of archetypal role. And I think that's kind of neat, hearing you describe it. It's like, wait, I know the ones who did that. That was before they became full priests. And once they became full priests, then their role changed. And I thought that was interesting because they were being absorbed into a different archetype.
Yeah, that is interesting because it is definitely like the archetypal reality of the experiences of each gender. I'm kind of the opinion that it doesn't really matter who, like, for example, within like a home, within a family, it doesn't matter how that family physically works as long as there's the archetypal roles being fulfilled. Someone needs to be, in my opinion, someone needs to be at home tending the fire, and someone needs to be going out hunting the beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're bringing home the sustenance. And so I think that's what makes a healthy family operate. It doesn't matter if it's the woman at home or the man at home or the woman and the woman or whatever. What matters is that those roles are being fulfilled. To me, that's the more important aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've lost a little bit with kind of like the short-sightedness of our society a little bit is we've made it more difficult for ourselves to fulfill those archetypes. And I think that's why we have a lot of problems with anxieties and depressions and other mental mental health issues because we're not fulfilling the roles that we're meant to fulfill within ourselves, outside of what parts we may or may not have or whatever we think that those parts equate with what role we're supposed to have. For me, it's really more about balancing out the archetype within us and figuring out what that might be. And I think, like it's kind of like when you have someone who, because we've seen it before in our work, when someone tries to take on too much with the church, like when someone, for example, takes orders that they don't truly, they don't truly carry it within them, it can burn them.
Yeah.
Like sometimes quite literally. And it's kind of the same thing in a more indetectable way, where if we're not fulfilling those roles, we're burning ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I find it fascinating because, I've always, when I was younger, I didn't feel like a very feminine person. I didn't feel like it made sense that I was a girl. And so I battled with that a lot. And it wasn't, and I wasn't even sure that I wanted kids. And, I don't know how public, how, I think he talked about it before, about how Levi came to be and why he came to be. So I won't go into that here, but it wasn't until that happened that I realized that, that archetype had awoken in me.
Yeah.
And finding that balance of the mom archetype was really difficult to me in the beginning because, I couldn't be, like at home. I had to work. At the time in particular, I was the breadwinner and, wanting that, stay at home with the kid and raise the kid with, the type of parenthood that I wanted. And it wasn't until we started pursuing this ministry that I realized that I could really fulfill that whole archetype in a more meaningful way, not in a larger way.
Yeah.
Not more meaningful because Levi's my pride and joy.
Right.
It had more impact, I guess, in that it was like, wow, there's more to being a mom than being a mom.
Yeah.
And
that's one of the things I was looking at
on that
too.
A couple episodes ago, where someone had called in and was talking about a spirit that had basically said that they were the spirit's mom.
Right.
And she didn't have kids. And it's kind of like you can be a mom without being a mom. You can definitely be a mom to someone. And so I think it wasn't until I really started to explore that a lot of things really started to make sense as far as like because I know I'm rambling, but like part of my journey to church was through the Theotokos. It was through that relationship with her and the relationship she had with her son and vice versa that really brought home the experience of the church for me. And so being able to fulfill that archetype within the church is really kind of an honor because it's like
Absolutely.
I can show people, motherly love that they might not otherwise know. It's a sad reality in today's time that, we don't have, in general, healthy relationships with people, and so a lot of people have difficult relationships with their parents. And so being able to be kind of that listening ear, that, that person that someone can call and just, I had a bad day and this is why, and I can
proverbially.
Metaphorically make I can metaphorically make the chicken noodle soup and, rub their shoulders and be like, you'll be okay tomorrow's a good day.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff for me. So it's an honor to be able to do that.
That's awesome. You know, that's kind of one of the reasons why I was pursuing priesthood in the Episcopal Church. And I mean, I'm still working on a Master of Divinity, but I'm going a different direction now. But that's part of the reason I was doing that, was I was going to be called mother. And it's like, you know, I can't get a date to save my life for some reason. And, you know, I'm, you know, terrible with relationships, don't know what I'm doing. You know, so the chances of me having my own kids are really slim, especially the closer I get to 50, because I'm getting really close. And so I was like, well, you know, at least this way I would be a mother to someone. But, you know, I'm going a different way, so I'm not going to do that. So who knows where I would go, but I understand that vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely power in that archetype, and you know, I definitely encourage people to find, you know, because everyone has, you know, a need for, you know, both, you know, male and female archetypes in their lives. You know, you can't. I don't think that we can really go through life with only, you know, the balance of one. So I think, you know, there's aspects of both mother and father that are important, and yeah, I definitely encourage you to keep exploring that, because I think there's a lot of grace there. You know.
Yeah.
We're called to recognize that and marry, and I don't think that's a mistake. I don't think that's, you know, a short-sighted just, hey, you know, honor my mother. You know, I don't think that's all it is. I think that there's a lot of wisdom in it, and, you know, because it's honoring the mother within ourselves.
Yeah. And of course, I've had struggles with that myself, because I had problems with my own mom, and I didn't really get along with her. And so trying to understand Mary was difficult for me. And I kept trying, though. I kept reaching out. I kept praying the rosary. And I think when it really hit me was when I was at the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they had a stone from the second temple, which would have been the, you know, a stone. It was not from the temple itself, but it was from the wall around it. And they were taking this on a tour with fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you got to touch it. So I'm like, hey, I do psychometry. So I grabbed my rosary that I got from y'all, those hematite rosaries that were so awesome. And I had that with me, and I put my hands down, and I tried to find Mary. And I found this young girl with this teeny tiny baby nursing him up against the wall. And she just looked up at me, and it was one of the most moving moments that I've experienced. And when I stepped away, I was kind of reeling from the power of it, and I kind of fell back a little bit. And when I looked behind me, there was a woman sitting on a chair next to a wall, a partition in the exhibit, and she was nursing a baby. And it was like, okay, I hear you loud and clear. You're with me, Mom. I get it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. I mean, you moved me to tears, because, you know, I've really done a lot of exploration with Mary over the years, and, you know, I can feel what you felt in that moment. That's real powerful stuff.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one of those things I share very often. Wow.
Mary's amazing. She brings a lot of us home.
Yeah. Wow. We have gone through so much time. We have 7 minutes left. Less than 7 minutes. You know, somebody asked. I get my knack for talking from Bishop. I just thought it was because you're a Gemini. So. I guess I'm a thing or two. So I know, you know, some folks have asked like how you two met, and of course, I think it's funny you've been with him on this journey, where he's, you know, going, you know, through all these religious things, and then suddenly he ends up a bishop, and it's like, wait a minute, did I sign up for this? And now he's an exorcist, and he's been on television, and he's dragging you with him, and I mean.
Well, surprising when God and the ministry came knocking, because we were always very spiritually oriented. When we first met and when we were dating and everything, and so it wasn't. There was never a moment where it was like, I didn't sign up for this. I just, this is not, this is not at all who I married or anything like that. There was never a moment like that, because we've always been kind of, the young, naive, like, oh yeah, we're going to follow the next spiritual high. So it wasn't ever like a deal breaker. It was never like, okay, this has gone too far. I'm really uncomfortable. No, it was just always, this is just the next evolution. This is the next step in the process in the relationship. And when we got married, we were married in a Buddhist Dharma center. I like to joke, I was barefoot when I got married. Like, but just we wore meditation robes and everything. But we've always been, in the pursuit of spiritual knowledge, and so it was never like unsettling. Like, it's actually kind of cute. I think it's kind of cute when because I was not raised overly religious or spiritual, like just kind of loosely identify as Christian, but I was never baptized or anything like that. It's just kind of, the thing that you grow up with when you're growing up in the South. And so about 5 years into our marriage, because I knew his thoughts and opinions about the church, and I had been having experiences, and it was Holy Week that year, 2007, and I said, I need to talk to you, and it just happened to be Holy Week, and so back then that was when History Channel and Discovery would air In the Footsteps of Jesus, and all these documentaries and stuff. They don't do it so much anymore, but so there were a lot of documentaries we had been watching a lot that week, and I said, I need to talk to you, because I need to talk to you too. And we both had been called back, for him back and me home, and it was kind of like a funny, kind of like in sitcoms where it's like, they both people have to say something and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Blurting out the same thing at the same time. It was almost exactly like that.
Oh, that is
like
awesome. I love that.
So yeah,
that's awesome. That gives me hope.
Before, the ministry came calling. I mean, that was years before the ministry. So
that's awesome.
It's definite. None of it's ever been a shock. It's just kind of, okay, this is where we're being called. This is where we're going. So
yeah.
It's never been something that's been uncomfortable.
That gives me a lot of hope, because I know I've been, since I've been healing so much, I've been thinking, I wish I had someone to give all of this abundance to, and, but they have to be
90 seconds.
Ooh, 90 seconds. They have to be willing to accept that I live in a very strange world and very weird things happen around me. I mean, like next week, I will be doing story time. It will be my first adventure, and that's something that happened in the 90s, and it involves a demon. Like, I was having, encounters with people who had attachments back then, and I've been helping people for so long. That's why it was so hard for me to come to you guys in the first place, because I was so used to handling it myself, because I was always helping other people with their issues. So, yeah, like I hope that whoever signs up with me,
you get down to it, that's mom.
Yeah.
That is mom.
It is.
I saw a great inspirational quote type meme thing a long time ago, and I'm going to butcher it. I can never remember it correctly, but it's basically, mom is the person when there are 10 people in the room and there are 9 slices of pie. She's the person who didn't want pie anyway.
Oh. That's awesome. Well,
10 seconds.
We have 10
Mom is always
seconds.
putting other people first.
So I'm so grateful that you came onto my cute little podcast. You know, I'm so thankful that you were here. Thank you so much, Sister Maximilian.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, and we'll have to do it again.
Yes, totally. This was fun.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed my tea. I enjoyed the good conversation.
All right. So let's see. Okay. So thanks everybody for showing up for this. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you were all here. Join us next week.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.